Thank you. And thank you so much for such a warm welcome. As you can imagine, it's a bit anxiety-provoking for us, and so I really appreciate the amount of friendly faces. We'd like to start by introducing ourselves. My name's Holly. I'm Métis Cree from St. Eustache, Manitoba.
Hi, my name is Cheyenne, and I am Cree from Fort Capel, Saskatchewan.
My name is Carissa, and I'm Cree from Grand Rapids.
My name is Tia, and I'm Cree from Cold Lake, Alberta.
My name is Cheyenne, and I'm from the Newhog Nation in Bella Coola.
I'm Riley. I'm Cree from Fishing Lake Nation, Saskatchewan.
My name is Melody, and I'm Blackfoot.
And last but not least, I'm Erica. I'm Carrier from the Psychas band.
Thank you. To start our presentation, I would also like to acknowledge the traditional unceded Coast Salish territory that we're located on today and express our gratitude for being guests here today. I would also like to acknowledge our elder Bruce for his lovely song and prayer and for starting us off in a good way. As always, it's an honor to do this work alongside you. I would also like to acknowledge the conference organizers today and express our collective gratitude for being invited to speak here today. It is an incredible honor to offer you our thoughts, and I appreciate the fortitude and intent necessary to genuinely create space for our young people and be open to hearing the voices and the messages they will share. I'm humbled by the respect and honor you have demonstrated by opening this conference in this way, and I hold my hands up to you. I'm not going to spend much time speaking, as I believe the words and wisdom of our young people are much more powerful than my own, yet I wanted to situate their discussion in a broader context of urban Aboriginal child welfare and ground our thinking as we explore policies and programs that may support the youth's messages that we hear today. When examining the policies that shape Aboriginal child welfare, and in fact the policies that have directly impacted these young people's lives and futures, I wanted to start our presentation by suggesting that access to justice means access to reconciliation. That is, reconciliatory systems that aim to heal rather than harm. It is our position that the future of child welfare must take into account the history of oppressive policies that have seen our people through the reservation systems, residential schools, the 60s scoop, and indeed policies that have silenced and attempted to break our generations. In order to do that, we must be prepared to restructure programs, to reframe policy, and to redefine practice that targets patterns that keep individuals and families stuck in systems. Our families, children, and young people in the child welfare system are living the effects of oppressive and structurally harmful policies. To move forward, it needs to be our collective vision that systems can be restorative in nature, that families can access healing, and in fact, the trajectory of our young people can be ones of leadership and strength. I hope we can keep this vision in mind as we digest the young people's thoughts on their care experience and what needs to be in place in order for this vision to become an actuality.
The Youth Advisory Committee is a group of youth in care or formerly in care of VACFAS who ensure that VACFAS holds and honors a youth voice in their agency and within the larger care system. The Youth Advisory Committee was founded on the principle that youth should not only have a voice in their individual care, but as well in the larger care system that is designed to represent us.
The committee consists of 12 youth who are either in care or were formerly in the care of our agency. Ranging in the age from 15 to 24, the committee represents a youth voice in our agency and is tasked with creating policy, programming, and direction that directly represents the voice of the children we serve. The committee began in 2011 and has been responsible for promoting the rights of children in care, shifting policies within our agency to ensure that we are representing the needs of our children and youth and offering an ongoing programming to our children in care. We have been involved with such projects as hosting an annual youth conference for the youth in care, to share our thoughts with the provincial advocate and partnering with her on other projects.
What does access to justice mean to us? The conference facilitators asked us to answer this question for you. As youth coming from the care system, having access to justice means being represented by a fair and just care system that is consistent and reliable, is representative of our voice, and that sets us on a path of having the skills and abilities to achieve our dreams. Access to justice also means being represented by a system that is grounded in and representative of our culture, that honors our history and community, and where our culture and legislative rights are met without fail. Of the 12 youth on the committee, our experiences in care have been incredibly varied and diverse. Some of us have had one placement for the time we have been in care, and others have had up to 40. Some of us have grown up with our siblings while others have been separated. Some of us have strong cultural teachings and understanding of our histories, and some of us are only doing this learning as adults. From sharing our experience, it has felt like the care system is a roulette wheel of good care rather than something consistent and reliable. All children and youth in care deserve the best possible care, and things should not be left up to chance.
What is working? We have a list of 6 points that we believe a healthy care system must hold. Being represented by a delegated Aboriginal agency rather than MCFD has worked for us. BACFAS has committed to being a strength-based and child-centered agency rooted in cultural knowledge and values. Being represented by an Aboriginal agency, we believe, has offered us greater understanding, a sense of belonging with the agency, and obviously a deeper understanding of our cultural teachings and shared histories.
In my communities of European and Aboriginal descent, I never fit in, but being represented by an Aboriginal agency helped me to feel a sense of belonging in my Aboriginal culture. BACFAS and other Aboriginal agencies offer many cultural practices to the youth in their care, which is so important if you consider the fact that residential schools were mostly successful in ridding Aboriginal people of normal everyday involvement in our culture. There are Aboriginal foster children in the care of the MCFD, Ministry of Child and Family Development, in case you don't know. Probably do. And they don't get offered spiritual healing. There's a lack of healing in the misplaced Aboriginal foster children. There's a lack of respect in culture. Imagine being 6 years old and you're moved from foster home to foster home without understanding why. You were there for a while and you don't get the proper care like a normal 6-year-old would get from their normal parents, and then one day you come home with your bags packed outside. Your social worker picks you up, drops you off at another placement, promising it will be all good. For argument's sake, let's say it is all good. You still have those memories of rejection, fear, and loneliness. Now imagine you don't get offered spiritual healing, and that you never find the sense of belonging or get to understand your culture, where you came from, and be genuinely cared about. People wonder why foster children are broken, why many resort to gangs to get a sense of belonging and acceptance, why many resort to promiscuity to get a sense of love that they've never experienced in any other way before, why so many foster children knows what it's like to be depressed. BACFAS offers healing, cultural healing to be precise. This is what is working in the system of foster care. BACFAS, by the way, is Vancouver Aboriginal Child and Family Services Society. Just in case you guys don't know that as well.
Relationship-based social work is working for us. Most of us have had social workers who are genuinely invested and care about us as individuals rather than just a file. Children require advocates as they navigate through the system, regular visits by their social worker, and when things are rough, someone to turn to. We know that our social workers advocated for us to have the best opportunities from the care system. Every child in care deserves this. Hiring invested, committed workers that support us and are mandated by the agency to build strong and meaningful relationships with the youth on their caseload is mandatory to good outcomes.
Since I was old enough to understand what being in foster care meant, I have always felt heard. But this is rare. I have been guided, nurtured, protected, and respected with the unyielding help of an amazing social worker and an amazing caregiver. Too often, we see far too many foster children who go unheard and who feel abandoned and misplaced. I grew up alongside many children who have experienced this. Social workers who keep a close bond, an open heart, and an attentive mind on their children have seen significant changes through a strong sense of self, trust, and all-around confidence.
Having access to family past the point of continuing custody order. Having family as a part of our lives has been incredibly important to us. Just because they were unable to provide care does not mean that we should be separated from them on every level. Parts of growing into healthy adults is understanding the place we come from and having relationships with our family. For those who aren't separated from our siblings, those relationships are the most meaningful ones we hold. Although the care system is designed to protect us, we should still have relationships with our family, extended family, siblings, and community. To not do so takes away our identity and prevents potential lifelong support for us.
One of the most important things to us as children in care is to be strongly connected to our families no matter where or who they are. Being a part of VACFAS has given us many opportunities to be with family or even to travel back home in order to keep those relationships. In other circumstances, other children wouldn't be able to. But because we are a part of an Aboriginal foster organization, we are fortunate. Growing up, one of the things that I am thankful for is being able to see my birth mother at least once a month with my siblings. Even though we may have been too young to understand the circumstances, it helped us like it would many others. It's not just about learning about family or being told our family tree, but being able to laugh, to cry, and to be happy with blood family. As you know, our situations may not be the best, but there are many things that can help a child grow to be strong and independent. To know where they come from, to know their background, and to know their family does a lot more than just create bonds. It helps shape someone in their future.
Initiatives like the Youth Advisory Council ensure that the agency is representing those that serve them and can help change the trajectory of care experiences. Several of us belong to other mentorship and leadership groups in the community, which has assisted us in developing skills and learning how to use our voice effectively. Being asked our opinion and being part of decisions that impact our lives have demonstrated that our voices do matter and helped us to have growing confidence and self-esteem.
There are about 30,000 children in care in Canada, and 14,225 children are Aboriginal. Having a voice in the care system is more than just being heard, but it's a chance for people to know what really goes on in a household. A foster parent shouldn't be the ones to speak on our behalves. We are the ones who go through this, and some of us suffer being in homes, either from being physically, sexually, and mentally abused. Even just being neglected can affect anyone in the long run. I'm in the YAC committee, and what I have learned from having a voice in my community, as well as in the care system itself, is probably one of the most important things that we need and you need to better understand us. We all talk about how we can make this system better or how we can better our kids. We should act on it instead of coming up with these ideas that, yes, should happen, but we shouldn't have to wait a decade for it to finally unveil itself. It took 16 years for VACFAS to make a youth committee, and the amount of achievements we have made in the past 4 years are more than the government has ever done in the last 20 years. Having a voice is very important. Thank you. Having a voice is very important, and I hope from seeing how our community is making change in the care system will open more opportunities and build a brighter future for Aboriginal children in care. A quote by Franklin D. Roosevelt: "We cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future." Without being said, we are the future, and we do matter, and we do deserve to be heard.
Initiatives like free tuition from major institutions across the province is working for us. We all have hopes of attending some kind of post-secondary study one day. It is great to know that significant financial barriers have been removed in order to support us in having dreams and obtaining them. We are aware that the Children's Advocate played a large role in that initiative, and we are grateful. We are sad, however, that it took an outside advocate to make the change, and that the system itself didn't value our educational needs enough to provide this for us.
When faced with all the issues that comes with being in foster care, school tends to get put on the bottom of the list. And when you mix that with the task of trying to figure out how you're going to give yourself a future with no money, it turns into an uphill battle that has no end in sight. You tend to get confused and lost in the world of ever-changing homes and faces, or trying to find out who you are amidst all the chaos. I knew who I wanted to be. I had many aspirations to have a bright future. I wanted to attend UBC Sciences and graduate with honors, but with no way to get there, you drift farther and farther away from that view of yourself. After aging out post-secondary school seemed impossible, but with initiatives that support young adults financially, having an education is within reach.
Funding for child-specific planning. Foster kids have dreams of their future the same way as any other child. We all dreamed of being firefighters, princesses, doctors, and veterinarians. As we aged, our dreams turned to art or music, and we wanted to learn to snowboard, ski, or rock climb. Investing in these dreams allowed us to genuinely explore our future and build on the concept that we really can be anything we want to be. Child-specific funding for classes or experience helps us realize our strength, create vision for our lives, and nurture our future.
I had the privilege to visit my reservation and home community while I was a child in care. I was funded for my trip with my mother and my foster parent. It was most likely the most fun I have ever had. Seriously. I think that every child in care should experience what I did. Your reservation is a part of you. It's a part of where we come from, and it's a huge deal in our culture. Child-specific funding is important to our identity and to making our dreams a reality. Most youth don't know what's available to them or what they can ask for. The system needs to be more transparent so we can understand what our options are and needs to invest in our futures.
Despite recent changes that have been beneficial to our experience, we know there remain times where children in care are not part of the decisions that affect them, where their views have not been represented, and where meaningful ties to their family, culture, and communities have been severed through the care system. This is not okay, and every child should be protected from these wrongdoings. Personally, there were many choices when I was younger that were made without me knowing why. I have experienced a lot being in care and the way the system works. It's often sad to say that not everything is done right. When I was younger, I was lucky to grow up with many of my siblings and stay in the same home even until now, but there are things that I wished I could have changed. One of the hardest parts of my life was to see two of my siblings moved up north and living with different people. It's not that I don't get to see them. It's not that I don't like their parents. It's about the choices other people had to make for me. After the years have gone by and I matured, I understand some of the reasons for that happening, such as already having 4 kids in one home can be enough, and that the band had more of a say. But the issue is for the younger generation not having a voice and to not know how to use it if they do. What matters is that even when there are choices to be made that are too much to handle for a young person, that their voice is still heard. Too many times do you hear stories that children are moving from home to home, having to adapt to their new families and new way of living, and leaving people confused as to why the child is unhappy. Yet it's not just one choice you're making for them, and it's not just anybody that you are making that choice for. No matter the situation and no matter who's involved, if the child in care is old enough to have an opinion, then it's important to listen. It's important to take a step back and realize that yes, the choice can be difficult, but you are changing the life of a young person who feels emotions and will be affected just like you and I.
Ties being severed to family and community through the care system. We believe that in order to understand the place we are going, we must understand the place we come from. For children in care, ties to the home and family communities are often broken. First, in order to protect us, and then get lost in the care system. Without having a full understanding of the reasons for coming into care, the histories of our families or communities, it is hard for us to have roots or grounding. Adults often want to protect us from difficult stories, but we deserve to understand our histories and to know our families, good and bad. It is hard for us not to know our background than to understand the parts of it that may be unhealthy.
It is in every child's best interest to offer healing through the care system. Children and youth, understanding their histories, will assist that healing and prepare us better for a better adulthood. As a child that did not fully know her family members, it was off-putting, even though it was my normal. My friends had great relationships with their siblings and extended family, where mine were scattered across Canada, US, and Germany. It should be the role of the care system to ensure that each child knows their family history and has connections to both as they age out of care.
Multiple placements. Not understanding our history. Many of us have had to sit with our social workers in late adolescence and ask them to put together scattered memories of our childhood. For those of us with multiple moves, we often don't understand why we were moved, given choice in the matter, and frequently believe this has been our fault.
I, to this day, don't remember my teenage years. It is a blank page that I will never be able to fill. I don't know how many homes I have been in, but I can say it's too many to count. After the first 10, 15, and maybe even after the first 5, it all seems to become meaningless. Even today, I find it difficult to stay in one place for too long. Should be stable and have a routine is a foreign thing for me, but it is something I've had to adjust to in order to provide my son with the stable life I never experienced. How do you know how to provide loving, nurturing care if you have never received it? How do you live a stable life after you've lived from one crisis to the next your whole life? It is a long road to understanding yourself and coming to terms with everything that it did or didn't happen for you, and with each change and each step forward, you find something new to work through and better yourself. I may never be able to completely understand my past, but I am in control of my future, and there is no going back.
Sibling separation. We are aware that a sibling relationship is one relationship that you have for the majority of your life. For children in care, the system often denies this attachment, and siblings are raised in different homes and communities. For those of us that didn't grow up with our siblings, it is difficult to have a meaningful connection or relationship as our life experiences have been very different. For those of us with younger siblings, we have missed out on the opportunity to be a role model or mentor. And for those of us with older siblings, we have missed the opportunity to have a shared experience and someone to guide us through this experience. Sibling separation has been and still is a big problem in the care system. Growing up, my parents have told me that I have brothers and sisters, but I could never be sure. I wanted to see them as any child would, and when my younger brother was born, I wanted to be his role model. I've only ever seen him a handful of times. He has been in and out of care multiple times, so getting connected was never really an option. Although he now resides in Victoria and our father, we don't talk very often, and I feel as if I barely know anything about my own little brother. He's now in a stage of life where he wants and needs his own space, and it's hard getting to know each other because of this. This is only one of many different cases of sibling separation with youth in care.
Disrupted education. Along with multiple moves, having a disrupted education has a lifelong impact for us. Attending multiple schools and missing school due to moving frequently has been challenging and can start us off in adulthood at a deficit. We know having a good education and accessing post-secondary education has the potential to change our lives and our futures. Yet, frequently changing schools and not having a focused education plan creates barriers to this future.
Many children with complex trauma histories suffer a variety of traumatic events. Complex trauma can have devastating effects on a child's physiology, emotions, ability to think, learn, concentrate, impulse control, self-image, and relationships with others. Across the lifespan, complex trauma is linked to a wide range of problems, including addiction, depression, anxiety, and other psychiatric disorders. These are all problems I faced in my time in care. I was never given the opportunity to be part of the mainstream school system and was only allowed to attend remedial classes, which further distanced me from school, my plans for my future, and most importantly, made me feel like no one thought I could succeed. School was and still is my outlet. School is something I excel at, and it's something I enjoy. While I was in foster care, I was busy trying to be in charge of my own care as opposed to focusing on the one thing that could get me out of this cycle. I hated so many people being involved in my life that I withdrew and did everything I could to prevent anyone from helping me, which in turn was more harmful. With so many moves, new areas, new rules, and new people, it becomes difficult to focus on attending classes, and I don't believe you should be penalized for trying to cope with the hard truth that comes with being in care. There needs to be more understanding and support for our young people to succeed.
Many of us have had to sit with our social workers in late adolescence and ask them to put together scattered memories of our childhood. For those of us with multiple moves, we often don't understand why we were moved and given choice in the matter and frequently believe this has been our fault.
The question, who are you? Have you really considered that question? We're constantly developing our identity from birth to the end of our lives. We build it based on our relationships to relatives, friends, community, geography, language, and other social factors. But when you're being moved from home to home and things never stay the same, how can you develop that sense of belonging and identity? The importance of positive youth development cannot be overstated. We must strive to foster healthy mental and emotional, social and spiritual and physical development. Many people desire to know where they come from, but a sense of belonging is especially important for our children and youth. Knowledge not only about their family history, but about their path through care gives children of all ages a sense of self and understanding, and the better ability to self-define who we are and what our values and purposes are. The better able we will be to care for ourselves more consciously, more deliberately, and more completely. We deserve to know our history so we may find our identity.
Aging out of care at 19. It is well known that the aging out process in this province does not meet the needs of youth leaving care. The reality of being solely responsible for yourself at the age of 19 is daunting, and the system does not provide a safety net or ongoing resources to support us or often any direction. For those of us over 19, this process has been fraught with trauma, tough learning, and homelessness. This is not okay. We know that children leaving care are more likely to receive mental health or hospital services, to end up in the criminal justice system, in the child welfare system as parents, or be homeless. Accessing these emergency or high-end services is not money well spent. Investing in an awesome aftercare system for us will prevent these high costs and demonstrate an investment of our lives, truly showing us that our lives and outcomes matter.
I didn't feel any different, so it was a while before it dawned on me. I'm a youth with the responsibilities of an adult.
I was very lucky when I turned 19 to be able to stay with my foster family. But even in the most stable of homes, there is an abundance of responsibility that comes with aging out.
Turning 19 meant new responsibility being launched at us, whether we were ready for it or not.
19, the year that you become an adult. Well, the year that I was told to become an adult. What age were you when you felt ready to take on the world? I know that at 19, I barely knew where to start. One day you have a whole team to help you figure it out, and in a blink of an eye, the only person on your team is you. It is a whole lot of experience and knowledge that we are supposed to all of a sudden know when that fateful date comes, and when we fail, where do we turn? I fought hard to get where I am today, and I'm here today to make a change so that our youth don't have to struggle to make a life for themselves.
When I aged out, I was excited. New responsibilities, being independent, not told what to do sounded awesome to me. Yet the reality is, I was still a kid being forced to be an adult. We all go through different transitions in our life, but this is by far the hardest one I've ever had to deal with. And it is so unfair to be just tossed out when you're not ready to go out into the world.
I have to say I like the bit that you mentioned about being a kid and being forced to be an adult. But, 19, we're technically teenagers forced to be adults. For everyone else, it was great, but for us, it sucked. I began my transition from foster care to independence when I was 16 years old. I had 3 years to prepare, but my reality is having no parents' place to crash at if I can't pay rent. I'm left to fend for myself, and I have no other option.
Access to recourse when justice isn't met. Representative for Children and Youth Office. The dedicated team of advocates who work in the office at the Representative for Children and Youth is committed to ensuring that the rights and interests of children and youth are protected and upheld, and that their views are heard and considered by decision makers. They help children, youth, and young adults know their rights and what to do if those rights are ignored. They connect They connect children and youth with services and the programs they need and to help children and youth speak up in a way that might solve their problem. They also help children and youth be a part of discussions about their care and services they receive and the decisions made about them. For these and for many of their initiatives, we are grateful.
Agencies and ministries also have complaint systems that we can access. It's not the child's responsibility to make sure foster parents are doing what is just. This puts a lot of pressure on us to raise our voice, complain, and then suffer the consequences of this. When we do complain, no one is under any obligation to listen to us. We can say we're not happy and that we want things to change. However, this change relies on the ministry or the agency to hear us. Often, when children in care say they are unhappy, the response can sadly be silence. Leaving complaint systems up to the children and having no regulatory body to enforce this change is not okay. We raise our hands to you for listening to us. And it's been an honor to have you hear our voices. We will be taking questions after we ask 2 important questions. In conclusion, why doesn't your agency have a youth voice built in? How would your agency change if you had a youth committee? And here's Holly.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. For me personally, to watch a room fill up and stand and celebrate these young people's voices almost brings tears to my eyes. It's one of the privileges of my life to work with them almost on a daily basis, and to know that their words are celebrated amongst a group such as this is an incredible honor. And it certainly aids in us feeling less alone in the work that we're doing. And we're hoping to come today and create as many allies as possible. And so thank you for that. I know we don't have much time and we've overrun a bit, but we wanted to open up the floor for questions, and if anybody had anything pressing or anything they wanted to share or address with us, we're happy to take that.
Hello? Given your experience and that we all want children's voices to be heard, at what age do you actually think children should be listened to for the first time? Because we often do it by age. And I'd love to hear your view on that.
I would say, personally, started at a young age. I mean, that's where we learn from, and everything just comes up to light. Started at a young age, and it'll go with us when we grow up older. Or when we grow older. Sorry, that didn't make any sense.
I know it may seem silly to listen to kids who are young, who only care about colors, who only care about, going to school and their friends and everything. But when you're making an important decision and a child is involved, like I said earlier, their opinion matters. And I remember when I was younger, I wasn't asked a lot by a lot of social workers. I went through a ton of social workers, at least 10, maybe even more. And so it was really important to me, to have my voice heard, and I have this opportunity to be on this committee is amazing. But it's really good to start out really young for the kids.
I don't think people give enough credit to children. They watch everything around them and the people that are right in front of them. And just giving them the opportunity to voice their opinion and encourage it deeply can just mean everything and mean the world. And considering that these children are forced to grow up a hell of a lot quicker than you guys, I think it's important to give them the respect that they deserve, and the encouragement and the funding and the opportunities that you probably all had, and these children are not guaranteed to get. They need all the help that you can give them all the time.
Does anybody else have comments or questions before we move forward? We'd love to hear from you.
Well, congratulations to you all for having the courage and the fortitude to stand in front of us. It's hard to listen to the hardships that you've been through. Anyway, my name is trying to get on my professional hat now. My name is Georgia Peters, and I chair a not-for-profit called Casa for Children of Greater Victoria Society. Casa stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocates. And we are the only not-for-profit in Canada. We are an international connection to National Casa in the U.S., and if anybody is aware of National Casa, it was actually started by a Supreme Court justice out of Seattle who was dissatisfied with the quality of information that was brought before him in child protection proceedings, and set up a process whereby he devised this program where volunteers, in fact, counseled and supervised by lawyers and clinicians, would be attached to a given file if the judge felt that they wanted to have sufficient or more information about the child's views. Back in 2009, an initiative started in Victoria as a result of Leadership Victoria, and we've been trying to get funding ever since. We've been hobbling along. I've been involved in a few court cases where I've been asked to intervene on behalf of a child. And recently we are partnering with the Native Court Workers Association of British Columbia, along with Indigenous Perspectives, to try to get a couple of Native court workers into the Victoria courthouse to provide first a family advocate and then a youth advocate, because they've only got Native court workers for the adults in the Victoria court system. So that initiative is underfoot. I partner and liaise a lot with other not-for-profits in our community to try to raise the voice of the children. And so I commend you. There are movements afoot, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody about our not-for-profit over in Victoria, get some greater support, and try to. We've got support. We've had. I get calls regularly from outside of the province to see if they can set up CASAs elsewhere. It's not an easy thing to do, but in any event, our agency is all about your voice and all about your representation, and we hope to get off the ground in the near future.
I'll never get a better opportunity, so here goes. I wanted to ask you, how many of you were involved in your own court file? And of those of you who weren't, how many wanted to be?
If you don't know, that's okay to say I don't know.
I actually do remember when I was with my mother going through becoming a permanent ward for the ministry in general, and I really did not understand what was happening, and I didn't know until very much later, and I would have very much liked to be a part of it.
Thank you. Exactly the same situation with her. My social worker actually sat me down one day, and my parents signed the paper, and they went to court the week before. I didn't know, but she was just like, yeah, so do you know what a CCO is? And I said, no. What's that? And then I learned that, my parents basically signed me off. That's it kind of hurt, and, I wasn't really involved other than the signing of the CCO paper. Yeah. Any other questions?
I was one of the people that wasn't really too involved in that stuff. But I was interested in knowing more about it and everything. I didn't have the voice to speak up about it, though, and mention it. So I was curious about it, though, definitely.
Good morning. My name is Queenie Archibald, and seeing you come out like this reminds me of when I came out from residential school. But now you speak of having a voice, which is really wonderful. But anyways, I congratulate you on being here and your success that you are having. And I wish you well. I just wanted to say I'm an elder to the court in New Westminster, and I'm a retired registered nurse. And I just wanted to say that Aboriginal court, if anyone has a problem, they can ask for Aboriginal court. And Judge Marion Buller is here today at the back of the room there, and she was instrumental in getting this court going for Native people. And it is a great bonus for Native people to have their own court, because in the regular court, if a Native person goes in front of that, they usually end up in jail, because the jails are full of our people. And what everyone is trying to do is to get our families healthy, that they may care for their children in the home, and you won't have this separation of siblings. I was not raised with my brothers and sister either, so I know what you speak of. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know we're running short on time, so I'll keep this time conscious. I'm a student at UBC studying social work in my undergrad. I'd like to say thanks a lot for everything you've spoken of. Definitely a lot more educational than what I learned in class here. And the question I have for you today is, how did you hear about VACFest? It sounds like it's great support, and I want to know how youth can get involved and what your stepping stone towards that organization was.
So that's a structural decision, not a young people's decision. Now there's a series of delegated Aboriginal agencies across the province, and children have access. Children, youth, and families have access to those agencies. So VACFast now, if a family identifies as Aboriginal, they can come through our child protection team. We have a family preservation team. We have our own foster homes, and then obviously our own guardianship program that these kids have graduated from. It's a structural decision rather than a decision that they made. Although I think Melody is unique in that she had a choice to come to VACFast from the ministry when we first started, and she made that decision to come over. But now what we want to see is all of our children in the care system being represented by Aboriginal agencies.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, and I apologize that we've gone over time, and thank you again for being such a warm and receptive audience, and for encouraging the voices of our young people. Thank you.